Now in the studio live, a guy that was at the game in Swift Current, right? Yesterday,
yes, I was
Darcy
there.
Hordichuk watching his boy. Give us 30 seconds on the game. What was it like?
No, it was fun to watch. Obviously, Pugh and Schultz, the team's kind of building around those young core, and just to see those guys live is something special. And Braden got a couple shifts with Schultz, and I think he sauced it over 2 sticks, landed it on his stick for a breakaway, and Braden was all Swedish and no finish on that one, but he had a good couple good chances that game. I thought it was the best game he's played so far, and it's fun to see all these young guys come up.
Last year, Braden played Scottsdale.
Yes, yeah.
And then so he was up here last year too, getting a feel of things. More comfort this year, I would think.
Yeah, it was kind of weird last year because we had him coming into preseason to playing some games, but because he's a U.S. kid and was drafted in the USHL. Or in the U.S. draft, they wouldn't let him play for preseason. So this year it's kind of fun. I feel like that's where he kind of brings his A game is playing against other teams and not have to run his own players in camp. So it was a great game for him last night. I think he threw more hits in that game yesterday than probably 2 weeks of camp over the last 2 years. So this is what it's about. Now you kind of see where the boys separate themselves, and it's in preseason.
Is there any chance that he's a Regina Pat Canadian this year? Or?
I think with the way they do things, it just wouldn't work out for us because you have to have the residency here and you have to do all that stuff. But all he's focused on right now is making the Regina Pats and helping that team win.
Before we dive into some of your background and playing, maybe talk about how growing up in Phoenix was mainly club hockey for Braden. Was it more just like what we're used to as we grew up in Saskatchewan, kind of that not community but just organized hockey? How did he go through his journey to get here?
Well, as you know, it's just about ice time, right? Mm-hmm. We've got every NHL, I think, coach down there teaching these kids. You got Taylor Pyatt, you got Michael Grabner, you got Steve Sullivan, you got Shane Doan. So you look at some of the kids that are coming out of this. You look at Matthew Nyes came out of the program. You look at Austin Matthews. You look at Gorzinski just got drafted, Barnhill. So there's a lot of good players. People are like, well, I don't know about, junior coyote hockey, but they're producing a lot of players because at the end of the day, it's about ice time and about developing yourself. And, there's a lot more travel. We got to go and play in California. We got to play in Chicago. We got to play in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. We looked at the schedule. If he does go back this year, it's 12 tournaments across the country to play the best team. So, but, you look at our team. We went to Red Deer. We made some noise. We beat some of the top teams in Red Deer as a junior Coyote team, and that's how Braden got drafted so high. And I think they realize that, it's a different type of hockey in the U.S., but at the same time, we get a lot more ice time, and not maybe than Regina, but 90% of the places.
Yep. Watching camp, and you go back to, what was 95, 96, or 96, 97, your first dub camp, and you weren't afraid to shed the gloves. Just how different camps are. The kids as players too, but how different a dub camp is now.
It's so like
what's a camp story too from you?
It's just night and day the difference. This is my camp story. I go and McCrimmon calls me, said, "This is your last chance to make the Saskatoon Blades. So here's the 3 guys you got to fight: Dallas Anderson, 6'5", Steve McIntyre, 6'4", farm boy from Saskatchewan, throws both." And I'm like, oh, this is great. I fought him once, then I fought him again in the same one, and then the third time they were yelling, "That's it!" And they kept both of us to make the Saskatoon Blades, and then later traded Steve to Prince Albert. But I just told Brad, I said, dude, like, you know what it takes to get to the next level, and you're that kind of a Swiss Army knife. So if you got to fight in camp, and that's what you need to do to stick around, he goes, the problem is, Dad, nobody wants to fight now. And I said, well, then you got to go be the bully and go after the better players, and you got to get them to fight you. So it's exciting to see this kid come up the ranks and play now in preseason where guys will step up. And I think the way he plays the game, being physical, he's going to definitely draw some fights throughout the year, and I think that's what the Pats need.
Yeah, agreed. You almost answered my question that I was leading into there is, it's a little more difficult to try and get guys to coax their way in, especially in camp. I happened to go over to the rink for one of the sessions. Reality, not a whole ton of intensity. I remember my first camp as a 16-year-old in the SJHL, there were some like 37 fights in 3 days. Now it's a rarity to see one or two in a camp is making Instagram reels and big highlights. So maybe for you as a dad and a guy that played a tough role, how do you kind of balance that, or not encourage isn't the word, but how do you balance that to go and inflict your style of play?
Well, it's just like your stock, right? The more you can do in life, the more you can block shots, the more you can strip pucks, the more you can hit, the more you can fight. I don't think Braden's really has to fight a lot in his career because he's going to be a power forward. Yep. but it's just one of those things that separates you from the Pews and the Schultz and some of these other kids. So you want to bring that to the game. We're not even talking about fighting. We're just talking about hitting. It's a rarity to see a kid hit out there anymore. And you don't see a lot of these kids because it's just the game's changed.
Yep.
But I still think it's a big part of the game. Guys like me are still coaching in the league, and guys want that. And I think that's what's going to bring a guy like Braden success, and I think that's why he's thriving in environments like this.
I was talking, I forget who I was talking to, a hockey guy the other, I don't know if it was, maybe you were in the conversation as well, but I feel because you have these guys coaching, the Ryan Hodgins of the world, Keller up in Saskatoon now with the contacts when it comes to AAA, yourself, all these guys, it seems though a bit that they're starting to hit a little bit more. There's a little more grit than maybe like 5 years ago.
Yeah, well, you're just picking more of those players, right?
Okay.
So I think there's only so many players that could play on the top two lines, and then you got to figure out, okay, how do we get some of these other guys in these other lines that maybe if one of these guys get injured, they can kind of fill
The Swiss
that.
Army knife.
Exactly. And I remember I told everybody the story, like my whole career at the beginning of my career, I'm playing against Getzlaff, Perry. They weren't fourth line guys, but when you have Solani on a team like this and you have Korea and those kind of players, they got to fit in somewhere, and they were just the fourth line, and we were probably -3 every game because they just dominated us. But those guys got their chance, and when they got their chance, they pounced on it.
Well, it's a little bit about being different, right? So if everyone's the same, how do you separate yourself? Yeah. So we try to get a little rougher, a little tougher, and then everyone tries to go that length or that way. And then it's about, okay, now we need to build back to speed and skill, and then everyone goes that way. So you're right. I think it's really valuable, especially on junior teams, to be able to find those guys that can slot up and slot down and play it kind of every different way, because you need 4 lines in junior. There's no doubt about it.
You coached Maddox on the provincial team, didn't you?
Yep.
A couple of years ago with the Regina Pats Blues, and yeah, that would have been, your third line guys would have been that. I think when we did the Monday Nooner episode with you years ago, you guys were at a roller hockey tournament or coming back and all that. Is that still big down there as well?
Well, you know what? In the summertime, you try to get the kids to kind of stay away from the ice for, at least two or 3 weeks. But, just talking with Ken Johnson and Bedard and those guys, they just said it's just such a different feel, and it keeps your hands kind of going so that, it gives you a break from the game and something different. But if you still love the game and you want to play it, here's a way to substitute. So, yeah, we always do the big tournament in Anaheim there and the Narch, and it's just incredible to be able to play in something like that with the weather and the ocean right there. It's something special.
Okay, style of game you played. Harder or more nerve-wracking experience before a game, going into an NHL game or the AHL game where you're potentially going to have to battle and there's always the next guy that's trying to make a name for himself?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like the NHL, for the first 5 years, you didn't sleep very much the night before. You didn't really feel comfortable kind of going into the game because you have 18,000 fans that want to see you lose this fight. But I think once you kind of come up with your technique and then you feel comfortable and you get a reputation, then it just, okay, I'm just going to go in there. I'm throwing bombs. There's no defense. Nobody wants to fight you anymore, first of all, because now you fight the right way. The AHL is funny because when I got sent down right towards the end of my career, I had 14 hits in the first period. And when I got on that bus after the game, I was like, holy shoot, I can't play like this.
Right.
Guys are just a step slower. And I was taught as soon as I go on the ice to bring that energy, to be physical. And if I didn't do that, I don't know if I had another shift. So every game, I didn't know if I get 8 shifts, 15 shifts. Guys like Mike Keenan loved me and would play me. I was looking at my stats back then, 12, 15 minutes, and I was playing more than, Christian Husilius and Valerie Burry. And I keep showing Braden the score sheet. I go, dude, I wasn't just a grinder in the fourth line. Like, look at my stats. He goes, yeah, for one team, Dad. But so it's just such a different mindset. But I was telling somebody this story the other day. I tried to fight Ty Domi right off the draw when I was 20 years old, and Ty wouldn't go, and I really called him out in front of everybody. He's like, listen, Rook, don't you ever disrespect me again. And I kind of went through that at the end of my career with Luke Gazdek, where I'm in the minors, and he's trying to fight me, and I said, listen, I don't even know who you are, but when you work your way up, I'll fight you, because you have too much to lose. Right. And I told Braden, I said, in camp, when you come to Pats camp, go look for the 20-year-old, look for the 19-year-old. It's a win-win. If you drop your gloves, that's the hardest part about fighting is dropping your gloves. After that, now your adrenaline takes over. Yeah. And that 19, 20-year-old, he has nothing to gain. And if he loses to you, now you just set the tone for your whole career. So
you played on the Oilers and the Florida Panthers. So the last couple of Stanley Cups, did you have an allegiance anywhere? Or?
Yeah, you know what's funny? I got my brother-in-law over here, Mark, sitting here, and it's a battle in our family because he's a Flames through and through, and my son Braden is just an absolute Oilers fan. And
Really?
I think that came with McDavid staying a couple doors down during COVID and shooting pucks with my son and getting spoiled and having that whole network. So, but I really was cheering for Edmonton. I knew the Florida Panthers would probably pull it off. You talk about teams trying to bring that kind of grit to the game. You look at what they got Chucks, they got all those kind of players that, Sam Bennett, just they play the game the right way. They're physical. They keep you off your game. And so I wanted Edmonton deep down to win. I bet on them to win, and they lost. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, McDavid, I'm not sure if he's going to stick around. I think he's probably going to go to Toronto or a place like that and play with Matthews. But
you heard it here first.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Hey, we got to give him a shout out. We're talking playoffs. He's got an NHL playoff goal as well. So he was getting it done in the most important time of the year as well.
It was fun. I think I played more in that playoff series than I did during the season. And it was just a physical series. And what's ironic is that Jonathan Taves is training at my skill center, and I said, hey, do you mind if I could post this? And he goes, listen, Darcy, I don't want nobody to know I'm coming back, and then I'm going to be playing for Winnipeg. And he kind of slipped up. I said, boys, I told all my buddies, he's going to Winnipeg, and they're like, there's no way. So I had a couple side bets where I won some bets saying that he was going to Winnipeg, but it's going to be exciting to see him come back and what he's going to do for hockey in Canada, and hopefully Winnipeg can make a move.
You're so tied to so many guys, like you said, and you're still friends, and a lot of them are in the Scottsdale and Phoenix area, which I think is just a travesty. They didn't get that deal done, kind of by Papago Golf Course or whatever that was in there. But the no state tax thing, where do you land on that? Is that such an advantage for some of these teams, the Floridas, anything in Florida, where Nashville, Vegas?
It is and it isn't. Like, I remember when the Rangers offered me a 3-year deal. I think at that time they were giving me $1.2 million a year, and everybody else is offering me $1 million. So you just kind of know, okay, it's going to cost me this much more in tax. So they're willing to do that. Like McDavid, he would make more in Edmonton than anywhere else. So now if he does a state tax, there's ways around all this stuff. So I think it does play a little bit of advantage. But then if you look at the last 10 years, when the Panthers were there, we couldn't get anybody to come there.
Right.
And we knew there was no state tax. Like, that's why I was playing there, because I'm a grinder. You only need so much money at the end of the day. So I was a grinder, and I needed every dollar that, and that's why.
Teterenko says the same thing.
Oh, dude, it was the best. And I'm like, how does nobody want to play here? Like, literally, we'd practice. Then we were on the golf course. Then we were at the beach for dinner, at La Solis, on the water, on the ocean in the afternoon. It's literally the best. The problem is, you're a nobody there. You play hockey, nobody cares about you. So I kind of wanted to come as a free agent to Canada and be a rock star for a couple of years, and then you realize that's not the best lifestyle either. When you got to explain to the media 20 different cameras why you didn't fight and why you didn't shoot in the power play and why you guys are losing and why the coach is going to get fired, and that doesn't go a long way in the world of sports.
Yeah, and there's always balance, right? There's cost of living come into play, and
the wife,
weather, location, travel. So it's not all as it goes. I remember when I was not coming up through the NHL, but young and having guys, and that was the place that people just went to. Let's go to Florida.
Exactly.
Coming up October 24th in Nipawin. Cool event that you're a part of, along with Marty McSorley, Brian Scrudlin, Corey Cross, who's got great stories. Chris Joseph, Eric Greiba, Steve McIntyre. You guys can chat about that. Jeff Odgers. Just a great event there that you're coming back for.
Yeah, you know what? I think at the end of your career, you look back and what it's really about is just trying to grow the game and help connect and tell your stories with all these fans that grew up watching you. And a buddy of mine, Justin Hellegaards, he's from my hometown. He played for the Nipawin Hawks, and I remember watching him in Junior A, and he's just like, hey, listen, would you want to come back for this? And I said, 100%. You just tell me the date, the time, and I'll be there. So I think we're going to do a little pickerel and pike fishing, the next day, and just
Tobin.
Yeah, have some fun stories around the fire and getting all these good old Saskatchewan boys together. So come out and support them. I think it's $35 a ticket or $30 a ticket. You can do dinner for another $30, and it all goes towards the Nipawin Hawks.
You sent me this, which was great. Yeah, it's 35 and then it's 60. Get in touch. It's through the Nipawin Hawks up there. But you also sent me this cruise. Do you want to talk about that at all? Like,
Yeah, so it's either I was supposed to go to Moose Jaw and watch my kid keep playing here in tryouts, or I got to go on a yacht. That's it's the Ritz-Carlton cruise. It's a private event for Andrea Bocelli, and I think there's about 40 different celebrities on there. Somehow I snuck my way in it. It's $70,000 a person, and Bo Derrick's on the boat. You've seen it, Evander Holyfield, Sugar Ray.
Yeah,
it's just David Foster. But yeah, it's a 5-day cruise. It's a chance of a lifetime.
Chris Tucker.
They needed a few celebrities to go on there, so I got them Shane Doan and John Dorenbos because they backed out last minute, and I said, well, what a fun cruise. I think I should be on this too. And a buddy of mine helped put it together, and it's been sold out for 8 years, and there's actually a lot of Canadians on it. So September 7th to the 15th, I'll be going to Monaco and Rome and cruising the world.
I went on a cruise in South Saskatchewan River once. That's I want to close on this as a Cam Sack, kid, farm boy, Saskie guy. Not to be generic and kind of cheesy, but when you come back and everyone's harvesting right now and they're getting things done, like, what do you love about coming back to Saskatchewan?
It's just this, and I just told my wife this the other day. It's just this kind of simple life that in the U.S. you're trained to kind of work hard and make all this money. And I think when you peel back the layers, we're only on this earth for a short period of time, and it's just about family, it's about friends, it's about experiences, and people here are so genuine. And my favorite thing to do is go to this Ukrainian co-op here and just talk to the people and buy sausage. And so it's just the genuineness of all these people and the simple life, and it's so fun every time we get a chance to come back here. And Brock Lesnar's a good buddy of mine now, and we just went to his, farm, and what are the odds that he lives 20 minutes from door to door? And we just sat by the fire at night, and his boys were fishing with my boys and
cut up some kubasa.
Totally. We just looked at each other and we just laughed and just said, hey, like, the world is such a crazy place, but we have this beautiful, and you don't realize until you leave how incredible it is. And you always think the grass is greener on the other side, but I'm so glad I get a chance to have my kid with the Regina Pats and come back and see my parents all the time, and that's what life's about.
Let's hope it works out, and they have a good young team, and it's going to be awesome. Darcy, thanks so much for coming in and doing this.
No, thanks for having me.
Right on.